Every once in a while, I have this idea for something that I really want to talk about on the channel, but it's not really enough to fill up a whole video by itself. So today I have for you 10 bits of advice that you didn't ask for but need to hear. These are all things I've learned along the way and that have made my life better in many different ways, and things that I would say to my younger self if I could, or to someone I really cared about. Feel free to grab something nice for yourself to drink and join me if you want, and let's get into it. Also, see, I made my glass a little bit less full because people were getting worried I would spill my tea, so I never actually did spill it, by the way, just so you know. Before we begin, I quickly want to thank the sponsor for today's video, Skillshare. They've been a great supporter of the channel for years, and they are the world's largest online learning community with thousands of great classes on all kinds of different topics for beginners to advanced. For example, recently I've been enjoying Lisa Bardot's class called Kickstart Your Creativity in Procreate. This class has 20 different drawing prompts. I'm about halfway now. It's been so much fun learning all these different techniques. For example, in this lesson, I learned to use a special cutout technique to make this cactus, and then used what I learned from the lesson to also create this cute potted plant. Maybe you'd like to give creative writing a try. You can take this creative writing bootcamp. Maybe you'd like to take gardening 101 or learn foundational sewing skills. You can learn about music, animation, career skills, crafting, so many different topics, whatever you're interested in. The classes are taught by industry experts and they actually get you learning. Maybe you'd like to learn woodworking. Then you can watch Anne Briggs' class called Woodworking for Beginners and learn how to make these beautiful wooden products. If you also enjoy learning new things, I really recommend checking them out. And you can do that for free because the first 500 people to click my link in the description box can get a 1-month free trial. So you can watch as many classes as you want for a whole month for free to see how you like it. And if you cancel within your trial, then you won't be charged. So huge thank you to Skillshare as always for their support, and let's begin with the video. Number 1, you're always allowed to get a second opinion. I don't know who needs to hear this, but maybe many people out there, including myself at one point, and this one is about our healthcare providers. I have so much respect for anyone working in healthcare, and I have no doubt that almost everyone really does try very hard to help their patients. But when it comes to who is helping us take care of our health, I do believe that there needs to be a good match, a level of trust and communication, and the feeling that you are being heard and being taken seriously, and that your health has importance. And for me, that hasn't always been my experience. For example, the dentist I have now is amazing. They're kind, they listen, they always explain what they're going to do, so they are great. But the 2 dentist practices that I was a member of before this one were really not, and I was very uncomfortable there for many different reasons, so I also just didn't go for a while, and that is a huge shame. Our health, whether it is physical, mental, dental, is important to us, and if you feel that the person who is supposed to help you with that maybe doesn't take it as seriously as you do, or they try to send you home when you feel that maybe there's something more going on, then don't feel like you can't get a second opinion, or maybe even switch healthcare providers altogether. Especially I think when it comes to your GP and your dentist, feel free to look around and maybe switch around until you find someone who's a good match. Number 2, you need to make time for things you find important. Time isn't just magically going to come up for us in most cases, and if you have something that you find very important, then it is up to you to prioritize it and make sure you have time for it. This also means saying no to certain obligations to free up time for yourself, and reserving enough time and space in your calendar for the activities and the relationships that mean the most to you, because if you fill your calendar with things you dislike, there's not going to be enough room for things that truly bring you joy. I always like the big rocks first principle from Stephen Covey. So you have this glass jar, and then you have a bunch of big rocks, a bunch of pebbles, and a bunch of sand. The big rocks represent the big things in life, the things that we find the most important. The pebbles represent the other things that we also need to do but are less important and less urgent, but they do need to get done. And then the sand represents the small stuff, like the remaining small stuff. If you try to fill up the jar by starting with the sand, then adding the pebbles, and then adding the big rocks, it's never going to fit in the jar. But if you start with adding the big rocks first, and then adding the pebbles, then the pebbles will automatically fall down to fill all the little gaps. And then you can add the sand as well, and it will all still fit in the jar. So if we spend too much time on the small stuff, then we won't have enough time and space and room for the big rocks, the things that truly matter to us. So when you, for example, plan your week, try to make sure that the big rocks have a place in your calendar first, and then try to fill up the rest. Obviously, I find that this is easier some weeks than other weeks, and sometimes life throws me a curveball and all my plans go out the window. That is fine. It is about doing your best to trying to do this most of the time, and I find that it really makes a difference. Number 3, follow the good energy. One thing I've often experienced in life is that negative energy attracts more negative energy, and positive energy attracts more positive energy. So, especially during times when I'm unsure about what I want to do, I try to follow the good energy. And this also has to do with being tuned into your intuition, because things like intuition and energy are nonverbal. We can't really explain in words why we think that something is the right choice. We just kind of know that it is. So what has good vibes for you? What makes you feel good about yourself? Where do you feel that energy the most? Or what activity gives you the positive juju? And I've learned to recognize that and try to let that guide me when I can. And I know that this all sounds a little bit hooey-wooey, but I actually think that this doesn't necessarily have to do always with things like the universe or the law of attraction. It can, of course, if that resonates with you, but I also think that it can be a lot more grounded than that. I also think that this can be applied to things like career choices, relationships, big life decisions, like whether or not you maybe want to move somewhere else, or personal growth. If you feel the butterflies in your stomach, or you feel that your heart beats faster in like a good, positive, exciting kind of way, then try to follow that and see where it takes you. And also the other way around, if you feel a pit in your stomach, or if a certain place always drains your energy, or if you just feel like something is off, I try to listen to that as well. And I'm not talking about things that are hard but are worthwhile. I'm talking about things that are actually like feel off, or like not my place to be. Avoiding something you don't want to do costs you more energy than just doing it. Overall, I consider myself to be a productive, self-motivated person, but I am also no stranger to procrastinating. In fact, I can be quite good at it sometimes. But I've learned that avoiding the thing you don't want to do actually costs you more energy than just doing it, because we're putting it off, but we know that we're putting it off, and we know that we won't accomplish this goal or this task if we don't buckle down and do it, because it's not going to do it itself. So we put it off, and maybe we feel a little guilty about it, or like we're not, doing what we were supposed to be doing. We might engage in some negative self-talk. Maybe we feel a little worried or anxious because there's this deadline coming up and we haven't done it yet, and there's less and less time to do it in. And so all of this worrying costs more energy than just doing the task. When we procrastinate, it tends to build up in our head into this like huge insurmountable thing that is just dreadful, and that's oftentimes not really realistic anymore. Because in reality, when you actually sit down to do it, you may find that it's actually easier or quicker than you had expected. And even if it's not, at least you know that you've started it and you know how to proceed. So if you recognize this, here's what I do when there is something that I need to do that I'm putting off. I try to do the first, tiniest, easiest, smallest, most ridiculous small step in the right direction. So sometimes that is just opening my laptop, or putting on my workout clothes, or taking a cleaning product out. Make it as small and easy as you can. And once you've done that, you've started, and it's already so much easier to do the next tiny, small, super easy thing and work from there. And before you know it, you will have seriously started it, and before you know it, it'll be done. When someone shares good news with you, be so enthusiastic and supportive. I always love sharing good news with people that I love. I just think that there's something so special about that shared joy. So when someone shares good news with me, I want to make that experience as nice for them as I can. Here's a cool word I learned recently: Confelicity. It means being delighted at someone else's happiness or good fortune. As they say, a shared sorrow is a sorrow halved, A shared joy is a joy doubled. So try to react in the same way that you would want someone to react if you shared good news with them. And if you notice a pang of jealousy, which can happen, we're all human, but try not to care about that and try to find true joy in the fact that someone else is doing well. Sometimes I hear people just kind of brushing over it or quickly changing the topic, and I think that is such a wasted opportunity and also kind of disappointing for the person who is sharing the good news. So I try not to be that person. So don't just say, oh, how nice, congratulations, and then move on to talking about something else. Really tell them how happy you are for them, ask them questions, get them talking about it more. And if it is an accomplishment that they made, allow them to brag about it for a bit. And afterwards you can go inward and practice gratitude for the other person's happiness and truly wish them the best and share in their joy. Number 6, don't always listen to others. Sometimes you know best. Sometimes I think that it can be a good thing to be headstrong, and I'm all for asking people for advice. Maybe they have some valuable insights or some knowledge that I don't have. But sometimes you don't have to listen to what other people are telling you because you know what's best for you. In the end, no one knows everything, and people's advice, even if it is well-intentioned, it is based on their life experiences and they might not always align with yours. I've also found that if you ask enough people for advice, you will eventually get conflicting advice because one person will tell you to go that way and one person will tell you to go that way. And they may not be wrong, but it might be wrong for you. I think this also has to do with trusting yourself. Sometimes you just know deep down that the advice that you're getting from someone doesn't align with what you think or feel to be right. Maybe you don't even know why, but you just know. And it can be difficult to trust that feeling, but you have to understand that their advice comes from their lived experiences and your feeling about this matter comes from your lived experiences. So I still think it can be a good idea to ask people for advice because they might genuinely have some helpful advice to share or some things that you hadn't considered yet. But in the end, you are the one who makes the decision. And if that means in this case that you want to ignore the advice that other people give you because you think that you have something better, then that can still be a good decision. And yes, I do get the irony that this is me sharing advice with you in a video, but this goes for me too. I'm just a person on the internet. I don't know you. So yes, this goes for the internet people too. Make sure the media you consume is at least as much positive as it is negative. Let's say you have the day off and you decide to spend the afternoon just chilling on your couch watching Netflix. Imagine first watching a horror movie and then watching a true crime show about some kind of mass murderer. And then imagine instead watching a comedy movie and then watching a documentary about something you find fascinating. How did these two scenarios make you feel? Probably quite different. I believe that the media we consume not only impacts how we feel on a daily basis, but also how we view life, humanity, how much we trust in other people, how we value nature, just so many things. Just like how the food we consume impacts our body, the media we consume impacts our mind. So I try not to go overboard with the negativity, with the scary stuff, the hopeless stuff, the things that make me feel like humanity is doomed. And I'm also talking about things like news and world events. I'm not saying to avoid these things altogether, but I do think there needs to be a balance. And laughing is so healing. For me, watching a comedy movie and laughing out loud makes me feel so much better than watching a scary or violent movie. Number 8, if you believe you can do it, you're already halfway there. In my life, I have both been overconfident about things and being like, oh yeah, I can do that. And then later finding that is actually quite harder than I thought and maybe I don't have the skills yet. And I've also held myself back thinking that there's no way that I could do something well or even at all. And then later finding that I was able to do it and maybe it was even a little bit easier than I thought. It's rather easy to hold yourself back by not believing in yourself. And when I look at people who have achieved something that I would like to achieve one day, I used to think of these people as having this magical, mystical talent and they just had something that I didn't have. But now I know that that is not true. This person is not any different from me. They just had this belief in themselves and they started somewhere, anywhere. They learned, they made mistakes, they got better, they kept building on it, and eventually they had achieved something special. So believing in yourself really is half the battle. Believing and starting. If you can do that, then you're already more than halfway there. Every day, once a day, give yourself a present. I have always loved the show Twin Peaks. Now, to be honest, season 3 was awful. I really didn't like it. I was so disappointed. But seasons 1 and 2 are really cool, and I've seen them many times. One of my favorite quotes from the show comes from Special Agent Dale Cooper when he said, "Harry, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Every day, once a day, give yourself a present. Don't plan for it, don't wait for it. Just let it happen." It could be a new shirt at the men's store, a catnap in your office chair, or 2 cups of good hot black coffee. I think that these are such good words to live by, and I don't personally do this every day, but I always try to be open to the possibility of something like that. If something comes up that I would really enjoy, it can also be like a nice shower or going back to bed on a Sunday morning after breakfast with my book. I try to do it and take advantage and really enjoy it, because life is too short, in my opinion, to only do the things that we need to do. We can also do things that we want to do, and we deserve that. When talking with people, try listening more and talking less. Always assume you know less than the other person, and even if that person is a beginner at something that you already know a lot about, they can still teach you something new if you're open to that. I used to be a nervous talker and just overall someone who tended to talk a lot, and actually I still talk a lot. I do it on the channel. But when I'm talking with someone now, I really try to make the effort to talk less and listen more, and it has completely changed how I interact with people. I think that this can help build better communication skills and deeper relationships. So try to get comfortable with silence and not try to fill up all the little quiet seconds with conversation, and really try to listen, ask questions, and give the other person your undivided attention. Also, admit when you don't know enough about something to give your opinion on it. I always love when people do that because it makes them come across as so smart. I think smart people say "I don't know" much more than most people, I think. I don't know. That was a dumb joke, sorry. Anyway, now I would love to know from you, what are your thoughts about the things I talked about here, and do you have any advice of your own to share? I would love to read all your stories, your thoughts, your ideas in the comments. I always look forward to that, so please feel free to share them down below. We have a few more days to go in my New Year's sale on my decluttering ebook and both of my online courses. Everything is 20% off, and the sale will last until January 29th. So only a couple more days. I will leave the information in the description box. Lastly, if you want to give Skillshare a try, then you can do that by clicking my link in the description box below and get a free trial. And as always, questions, comments, conversations down below. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you all again next week. Bye bye. So for a couple of days now, every time I look out the window, it's fog. Like I can't even see the trees on the opposite side of the street. It's so foggy.